Well, here we are again. It's going to be a very exciting, actually, but another exciting episode of In Conservation with. I'm here with my guest, and his name is Geoffroy Citegetse, or Citegetse, even. I've always had a problem with your surname, Geoffroy, but I've been practicing your first name because it looks like Geoffroy, but actually, obviously, it's not. But before we actually say hello to Geoffroy, let me just quickly say that or say thank you to our sponsors. They are Leica Sports Optics and CJ Wildlife. And CJ Wildlife, for those who don't know, are a team of passionate nature lovers and experts in garden wildlife on a mission to make nature accessible for everyone, whether you are a nature novice or a garden guru even. They want to inspire and educate and provide the right tools to help wildlife thrive right on your doorstep. So that's what they are about. So without any further ado, I'm gonna introduce you to Geoffroy. Geoffroy, very happy to have you here. How are you and where are you?
Yeah, thank you very much, David, for this opportunity, and I'm excited uh, to talk to you and exchange, with others and share, my experience. And yeah, so as you said, my name is Geoffroy Citegetse. I'm working for BirdLife International. I have been in Africa in many countries, and I started, in Burundi. So now I'm in charge of the East Atlantic Flyway, and also working on the Green Great Wall initiative, trying to support countries and their partners within the region. Yeah, and one of is more focusing on monitoring of bird, working with bird conservation of migratory bird especially.
Okay. Well, we'll get on to the Great Green Wall project, which sounds absolutely phenomenally amazing in terms of what you want to achieve on that. But let's talk about you as Geoffroy. How did you get into birding? What sort of age were you, and what was the circumstances? What were the circumstances?
Yeah. So, do you want me to share or?
Yeah, not yet. I'd like you to know. I want to know about you, Geoffroy. I want to know how
Yes,
did
yes,
you get
yes,
into
yes,
birding?
yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So I start birding. I can tell you when I start birding because that is part of my nature, because I've been raised in a up country where I was in contact with nature, especially with birds.
That's in
And
Senegal, yeah. That was in
and
Senegal.
that was in Burundi when I was young, and then I moved, for after Central Africa, Burundi, and then moved to Senegal because I'm based in Senegal, and there I can discover other species, in the West. Where I was used to Central Africa and also Afro-Montane forest. So now I'm based in Senegal. So the last 10 years, 8 years in Senegal, and the 3 years in Sierra Leone. So I've been in contact with, birds and people, birders and the conservationists within the region, still working with them closely.
So, West Africa in particular, I've never been to, even though I'm pretty sure that my pre-slavery ancestors came from that region. So I'm embarrassed to say I've not been there. But what was it like as a young Geoffroy being interested in birds? Were there other people around you that were interested? Was it something that was shared?
Yes, yes, yes. There are many people that are interested, and they're always, calling me to go to do birding, in one of the sites in Senegal, in the middle of the city. There is a site called Technopole, and that site is very interesting in terms of birding, because we've we've got 230 species, which is so much in the middle of the city. And also around the city, there is also some areas that we visit normally with friends, and people coming in Senegal. But Senegal is incredible in terms of birds. You can from the seabird to water bird to land bird, or kind of songbird kind of stuff you can discover there. So it's interesting,
So Senegal sits below Gambia, if my geography is right. Is that correct?
I mean, Gambia is. I mean, I know I'm not going to say that, but sometimes you can be confused. You don't see where is Gambia because it's within Senegal.
Oh, okay.
It's like a finger in Senegal.
So why do people, especially in Western Europe? I mean, certainly in Britain and Northwest Europe, but a lot of people used to go before the pandemic, used to go to Gambia, and it's almost similar to the Americans all jetting down to Costa Rica. It was that kind of thing. You go to the Gambia, it wasn't that expensive. You can get great birds, including migrants. So why not Senegal? How come Gambia gets all the tourism and Senegal doesn't seem to get the same kind of wildlife tourism?
Yeah, I think it's maybe linked to the language. I mean, because Gambia is an Anglophone country, so easiest to most of many birders to come to Gambia. But I've seen, the tour guides from Gambia, they take people to Senegal as well. So I think it's because of maybe the language or also the habit whether people were used to go to that country. But Gambia is a small country compared to Senegal. I think that barrier is the one that is preventing people to come to Senegal, because mostly, birders are coming from, Anglophone countries.
Okay. Well, listen, let's not waste any time then. Let's look and learn about, look at and learn about the project you're working on. I'm sure everyone's pretty excited about what to expect. So if you can share your screen, and obviously I don't need to tell you, Zoomers, all of you are fairly regular, so you know the deal in terms of the best way to watch it is speaker view, so you can actually see it clearly. Excuse me. By the way, Zoomers, I hope you've all had a good week, or weekend even. And for anyone else watching this in the future, apply it to you as well. Apply it to yourself. Did you have a nice weekend? Regardless of the fact it might be 20 years from today. I hope you had a good weekend. So over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, David, again. Just to briefly present me before going to the matter in Senegal and the green ritual, as well as this Atlantic flyway. So as I said, I grew early in Burundi, which is in between Central and East Africa, an area where we used to have mountain, and at that time it was full of trees, and I experienced how the environment was degraded at an early age, and I say that I was there in contact with biodiversity, with birds, So there were two fascinating birds that still, and one is pied wagtail, because of it's linked to socioculture. There are many names in my country that have the same name as a pied. So I mean, when you are doing agriculture and you don't see behind you the wagtail, that means you are not going to get a good production. So it's a good sign when you have the wagtail behind you. There was the other one, the gray crown crane. Those birds, that species was also a sign of prosperity, a sign of richness, especially, and even some of the people in my country, they use to imitate how the great crown crane, dance. So that's these are the first contact I had, in my lifestyle. So the first contact, with organization was with one of the ABN, which is Association Burundaise for Protection de la Nature, which is BirdLife partner in Burundi. And then I started becoming a volunteer and going out with the people. And you can see on the picture, my daughter was with her, in one of the forests for, bird watch. So this is the early stage of my contact with the BirdLife work and also the nature. So when I start working on Afro-montane forest. Sorry, just to as a background, and then there was colorful birds. It was amazing and it attracted me. I also worked on a wetland and also discover some species that was very interesting. So as I say, I'm the person in contact with people because once you have that contact, it allows you to raise awareness and also work with the schools, work with the kids that are still enthusiasts, want to learn, and to for them it's easier when you take them out. So in West Africa, especially in Senegal, I got that project that was on migratory bird, along the East Atlantic Flyway. And that project was to build the capacity of the communities of people along the flyway, but also of young researchers to do research on some species like this one, the black-tailed godwit. You can see this is a species that was followed with the support of some organization, Mava Foundation, and also our BirdLife partner in Netherlands. So it helped doing the monitoring along the flyway. Then you can see the West Africa was key for developing that flyway, and we took lesson far south and also far north, then building the collaboration on the flyway. And every year, I can tell you that even next year in January, we will be doing what we call the total count of birds, asking people to help, monitoring water bird especially. And I'm inviting you to join us and also mobilize some friends to come or organize some trip during that period to help, doing water bird monitoring. This is one of the picture now in Mauritania, where I was going out to do monitoring with the community there, and it was pleased to spend the night and 2 days with them doing monitoring. You can see it's not only young people but also the old people that help us or coming with us to do the monitoring, which is very, very interesting. And in terms of knowledge, they have tremendous knowledge. It comes also to build the capacity of young people, especially in Senegal. Here you can see the three guys with a bunch of binoculars. Those are the partner in Senegal, NCD, we call it NCD, Nature Communauté Développement. Build them the capacity. We also give them the material so that they can be able not only to guide others, but also to organize outings with their members, and also build the capacity of community at local level. So I was saying that we build the local to global, and this helps us to connect the dots along the flyway and have an overview of what is happening, in terms of migratory birds. So coming to the Green Great Wall, I can say that this is an initiative of countries, 11 countries in the Sahel region, so from Senegal to Djibouti. And you can see that corridor, that area covered by, in blue, it's what they call the Green Great Wall corridor. It is important. It's between 400 millimeter rainfall and 100 millimeter rainfall. So this is that area, and you can see it's an area where even some of the key lakes like Lake Chad or other lake like Lake Margi, and also the rivers like Senegal River and Niger River, they are also going through that area. It's in terms of it's a savanna, it's a Sahel region, but it's very, very important for birds, especially migratory birds and the land birds, because they come to winter in that region, and that is where they found the food, to replenish before going back to Europe. So, this is some of the species that are found or come to winter in the Sahel region, and they can get some berries because there are some trees like balanites, like acacia, for example, that's where you can find insect. So those trees, they are very, very important. In one of the study that was done, the Leo Schwartz and the Wimenga, they did kind of a study where they can say what are the species that are protected by those birds, and trying to make that link. And also we found that some of those trees are also important for the community because they are using not only for medicine but also for food. The initiative, the Pan-African initiative, is an idea that was put forward in 2005, with an idea of green barrier with the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo. In 2007, the African Union adopted the initiative. In 2010, then they created what they called the Pan-African Green Great Wall Agency. And that Pan-African is coordinating, the work on Green Great Wall initiative along the 11 countries. So now they have developed kind of plan that they implement, and that implementation is more not only doing restoration, planting trees, but also now they've started having it at a pole for development. And that was very, very interesting for us, for BirdLife, because we wanted to include in that initiative, the biodiversity element, because it's important that they don't plant, they plant tree and the right species at the right place so that the birds can continue benefiting, and also the communities. So the vision of the Green Great Wall is, is to transform the Sahelian area into rural production and a sustainable development hub. That's why we want to have an eye so that it is not destroyed completely and harm, the bird and their habitat. So to do that, we set collaboration with the Pan-African Green Great Wall, and that collaboration will help them to mainstream biodiversity into their activities, but also help them to measure the impact of their work on biodiversity, especially birds. So for now, we are looking for collaboration with the different, individual also organization to help, doing monitoring of birds and biodiversity within that area. So we are welcoming every individual, every organization that are interested to help, conserve that area, which is tremendous and important for people in that region. Yeah, so I think I can stop here. I don't know whether I've past my time, but we can have more interesting question on the birds that are found in that region and what is happening and what we are doing, because there is a lot that we are doing as BirdLife, especially supporting the countries, the partners in Senegal, in Mauritania, in Mali, as well in Burkina, Nigeria, and other countries along that corridor. So they are doing, some monitoring of birds, but we want to build that collaboration so that everybody is involved, not only in monitoring but also enjoying what is the biodiversity that is in that area. So I have been also doing not only water bird monitoring, but also monitoring of other birds. And last year I did in Mauritania, and before I was in Mali doing water bird monitoring on one of the lake, what we call the Lake Maggie, and also I was doing it with the people on the ground, especially the communities, which means that they also have knowledge of what is happening in there, and they can tell you whether the species have decreased, the last year, or is increasing. So for me, it's very, very interesting and encouraging to see that it's not only people coming from outside, that knows the bird, but also the local. They have that knowledge, and they can share. They can work together. They can enjoy watching birds together. So yeah, so I will, as I said, I'm based in Dakar, and there are many places in Dakar where we can do bird watching in the city, out of the city, and there are key areas within that country, especially the Saloum Delta, where we can have not only the water bird but also the terns and some land bird. Within the Senegal Delta, the river, then we have two parks, especially that are very, very interesting, especially Djoudj National Park, and also the other side in Mauritania, we have what we call the Jowling National Park. And in that area also you'll be able to find some of the species that are very interesting. We can't find anywhere. I mean, there is also a breeding site in Mauritania of lesser flamingo, but threatened. Maybe once you are there, you will see. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Geoffroy. It's very, very interesting. One thing I want to ask you, what is this going to look like? I mean, when is it done? I mean, when is it finished, if there is a finish date? But what is the long-term plan for this green wall? How's it going to look? Is it going to be a belt of forest across that bit of southern part of the Sahel, or what's it going to be?
Yeah, that was the preliminary idea. People were thinking maybe they can plant the eucalyptus or those kind of pines in the block the Sahara, but which is not the right thing, because that area have been the species that have been adapted in that area. So you can change and bring other species. So you have to build on what is existing there. So I think there is biodiversity, but not compared to other area. And the species that are there, when you look at the importance, I mean, David, I don't know whether you've been in that area. If you go to Mali, if you go to Niger,
I've only ever been to Ethiopia in that whole region.
Yeah. So there are some of the species like the acacia. They produce the Arabic gum. That's very important. In the agro industry. Yeah, pharmacy. When you look at there's a species called Balanites. It's used in cosmetics. It's used in pharmaceutical industry also. So all those species, they are found there and they have been adapted. They are resilient to the area. I mean, what you have to understand is that area is, there is kind of climate change. There are very sensitive, but the species, succeeded to adapt. And even if you look at the people that are there, they, you can't understand how these people were able to survive in the area. But you find they have headers with many cattle, and then you can imagine, which means that the area is important, even there is no many biodiversity as, for example, in a tropical area.
Okay.
Yeah, so the countries now, I mean, they have started understanding that the idea of planting kind of barrier, kind of a wall as such of trees is not possible. But they are now thinking of a wall of integrated development where you have biodiversity and the people profiting of this biodiversity within the area.
So, okay. So basically, the other thing I find really fascinating about all of this is the fact that all these 11 countries have agreed to do this, because we kind of agreed to live together. And in fact, I looked at the map and I can see at least one country that I know of that's at war at the moment. I think it is Ethiopia. What happens during those situations? I mean, obviously, I guess work ceases.
Yeah, if you see in that area, I mean, why are having problem in that area? I mean, it's because of normally when you have an area which is rich, always there will be kind of fighting for the resources. Yeah, even with the community, like the agriculture and headers, there is always this kind of fighting. So, but what is important is that all the country, all the government, all those countries, they come together and say agreed to take forward and act for the conservation of that area and develop that area. And some of the donors, have also pledged to help the countries to achieve the objective they have fixed themselves.
Okay.
And just to say that I was in one of their meeting. They have the Council of Ministers, and you can see that these the ministers were enthusiasts. Were the way they were taking the seriously the matter of the Greenwich Wall, and this encouraged me to say, let's guy continue helping what is done in the area.
Okay. Yeah, okay. We might come back to the conflict thing, because I know there's a couple of questions in the chat about that, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But okay, this is an agreement across 11 countries. What do you need from the West, as it were? I mean, is this something that's totally self-contained within Africa? Because to be honest with you, I wasn't aware. I don't know about the Zoomers here, but I wasn't actually aware of the project at all. So is the news getting out as much as it should do?
Yes, as I say, David, this is not, yes, it's in African in terms of conception or whatever. But when we look at importance for the biodiversity, it's for all of us. I mean, which means that, look, birds are benefiting because they are coming to winter in that area. That's why it's a stopover for those continuing to south, you see. And that area is also, if we tackle the issue there, we will be solving, climate change, which is affecting all of us. So it is important not only for African, but for the whole the world. I mean, even the West. That's why even you can see that some of the countries have also pledged some funding to support that initiative.
So you're talking about, when you say some of the countries, you're talking about the African countries, or you're talking about outside of Africa?
Hello, come again.
When you talk about pledged money, who's pledged money?
Yes. It's all over. All over. We have, I mean, countries from the West. We have the French government. We have also the European Union. We have the World Bank. We have, I mean, some private also that support that initiative, and also the African banks like African Development Bank that also have pledged to support the work in the Sahel.
Just out of interest, has Britain, that country that used to be part of Europe, as that country, Britain, have they pledged anything?
Yes, supporting the people that are coming to invest in the area. And I mean, if you visit, there was last year a meeting in France, and it was the One Planet Summit. And I remember that the Prince Charles at that time also was there attending, and he pledged. Now he's a king. So I hope he'll be able to vote for that support.
Yeah, let's hope that he follows through on a lot of things that he said in the past. Excuse me. Yeah, so basically, what do you want from someone who watches this interview? Individual. How can someone an individual help in realizing this whole massive project?
Yes. I think there is a lot to do in that area, and anyone could contribute to what he has. I mean, either it can be financial support, it can be technical support. As I said, for example, life will be more focusing on biodiversity monitoring, and this people that are visiting the area can contribute to that, and then also the development of value chain with the communities within that area, and this need also some funding, some techniques. So I mean, everybody can contribute to that initiative. Can be individual, can be organization, it can be any support is welcome.
Okay, so that means, like, for example, showing up and doing eBird and reporting what you see as
yes, that will be a big contribution.
Okay, that entire belt, the Great Green Wall, is it mostly uninhabited areas, or are there cities and towns within that area?
Yeah, I don't know whether you've looked at that map. There is some shapes inside in red. Those are, the important bird areas. That's, but there are also parks and protected areas, and and the Ramsar site. There is a number of those protected areas that also are interesting for tourism, that are also interesting for other activities.
Yeah, but my question was, is there, I mean, for example, in that belt, are there cities there, you know, because for example, in other areas of the world, you got important bird areas. For
Mm-hmm.
example, where I am based in Spain, in Extremadura, there's about 19, well, at least 19 important bird areas are actually in urban areas. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that whole belt of land, I was asking, you know, within it, is it all totally wild or not wild, but is it all uninhabited in terms of, you know, buildings, or are there, you know, cities in that area as well? You know, are you talking about greening cities as well?
Yeah. There are cities within that area. You know,
Yeah.
it's a large area, so there are cities within. Cities, protected areas. There are, some area for agriculture. And I told you that even the rivers, like Niger River or Senegal River, they go through that area, and that is a place where people grow their rice, for example. So, which means that you have everything: cities, agriculture, um, any other development project, yeah, in front of them.
In Europe, certainly, I'm sure maybe elsewhere in the world, but certainly in Europe, you know, we get swallows, we get cuckoos, and in Britain, I don't know about what the other Zoomers think, but certainly in Britain, we see them as our birds. You know, they come back for us. How are
Mm-hmm.
they viewed when they go to Africa?
How?
How are they viewed? Do you look at them and think, oh, our birds have come back? Or do you think that they are European birds? I mean, how does the average sort of birder in
Uh, 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 uh,
how
I've got,
do you perceive the
I've got,
bird?
I've got that question many times. I remember when I was traveling to Netherlands, and went out for bird watching, and then there was a number of people also doing bird watching with us. And I told them that they are coming from Africa. I say, no, this is our bird. And they told them, no, no, this is not your bird. If we look at who own those birds, because they spend more time in Africa than in Europe, and then they say, so if we look at the time, who is the owner? But at the end, there was an agreement saying, oh, okay, this is a shared, resources, so we need to protect it together. Yeah.
I'm quite
So,
I'm
so
surprised.
I mean, we there are some species that are tagged, that we always follow to see where they're going and how long they're going to spend, for example, in Africa, and then going back to Europe. So these are some of the things that we support through our project
Yeah,
to see, yes, what
yeah.
is happening on
I, I'm more interested in the emotional side. I'm not the science. I understand. I'm trying to get to the emotional
Mm.
side of it because
Yes,
I
yes, yes,
can't
yes.
understand how anyone can say that's my bird. You know, I just don't understand that because it's not. It's the world's. You know, the
Yes.
in Britain we have like the Eurasian robin, which is also found by the way in Europe. But
Mm.
our robin, in fact, it is our national bird. But people think of it as our robin, and you know, I speak to people who aren't birders who think that their robin, you know, is British and hangs out with them all day or when in reality, you know, there's birds that are coming from Europe, you know, and who are sharing the gardens, and that they look almost exactly the same as the robins that people who look at them at a casual glance, you know, think. So that's why I was interested because, I mean, you as a person, Geoffroy, sorry, I've got, hang on,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yeah.
you as a person, as an individual, Geoffroy, how do you celebrate when you see the migrants coming back into your region, into this great green wall area? Do you celebrate that they're coming, or is it just, you know, what does it feel, what does it make you feel? Because for example, when you know we get our first migrants coming back from Africa, we're celebrating, everyone's saying, oh, the first swift and all that
Mm.
stuff. Do you have the same emotion?
Yeah, I think Hey, yes, I mean, when they are coming from Europe, for now we are celebrating because we can see even they are tired, with their fever, and but I mean, it's the time to celebrate. Last week it was um, World Migratory Bird Day in October. That is the celebration normally, because before we were celebrating the departure rather than the the coming of the birds. So that's why you see now the CMS and the Iowa, they've come to an agreement to celebrate 2 times a year the World Migratory Bird Day. So in May and in October. So it's to help, so African we can celebrate in October and the European is celebrating in May. But we always help, and join to you to celebrate the coming, because it's a shared resources.
Have you noticed over the years declines and increases? I mean, here in the UK, for example, we've had a massive crash when it comes to, in fact, in Europe, turtle doves, drop through the floor in terms of numbers. And other species, seem to be stable or increasing. Have you noticed that as well? Do you notice the declines or increases?
Yes, we noticed that. I mean, yes, for the total dove, there are some coming to Senegal, for example, and there is a roosting site where you have massive, total dove, and we can, we do sometimes, monitoring and see whether the number have dropped or not, and that's it's a signal for us. We can see that there is something happening either in Europe or in Africa. So this is one, and the other thing is on some of the water bird. For example, I can give you like a wimbrel, for example, or some species like Kalu sandpiper, for example. I can see that Kalu sandpiper is declining because of we are, doing the waterbed monitoring every year along the flyway. Then we can see it is decreasing.
And what about climate, the changing climate? Because obviously, the West has suddenly kind of woken up to, well, some of the West have woken up to it. But how is it actually manifesting itself in your region? I've always believed that the Sahara is getting bigger and bigger. How has it changed in, say, the last 25, 30 years for you?
Yes. I mean, this is here. I mean, it's obvious. You can see the impact of climate change, because one of the things that will be affected is water. First of all, water, and then when there is no water, then some of the trees will disappear because there's no water. So and the rivers also, the scarcity. So there are some rivers that no longer have water. So this is also a sign of the climate impact. And this one, the second is, the temperature, because the area is hot. You can feel it when you are there. And sometimes you can even go out because it's too hot. So those are the things that, for example, in the Sahel area that show the impact of climate. And the other thing is, even when there is a rain, it will be flooded, so it will destroy everything. The water will destroy everything. You have, for example, 10 years without rain, and then you have a rain in 2 hours, in 30 minutes, then it overflowed it. Impact on infrastructure and also the habitat. Yeah, this is but for the costs, it's obvious because of there is coastal erosion, for example, and there's the mud floods sometimes disappear. and this will affect also the weathers.
And how about hunting? How's hunting in that region?
Yeah. I mean, yes, hunting is still going on in some of the country, even here in Senegal and Mauritania, and in some countries of the Greenwich Wall. I mean, in Europe, the law on hunting is becoming, very strict. So the hunters now they come to Africa because of the law here is not very rigid as in Europe. We have the law, but we can bypass the law and continue doing hunting.
So what they
This
come?
is
Sorry, they come to they come to the region to hunt things like turtle doves, for example.
yes. They are doing it because they give the license to hunt species, and sometimes they because there's no one to monitor what they are hunting or what is the quota of hunting, and sometimes they do what they want. But yeah, but I think this is an issue that that we as a organization BirdLife trying to tackle or to see how we can solve that issue of hunting.
Yeah, and so the people that hunt, are they largely people from Europe, for example, that come and hunt for sport, or are you having people, local people who maybe are struggling to feed themselves, hunting? What's the breakdown?
Yeah, it depends to countries. There are countries where I don't have people hunting birds for food. But there are some countries like Mali where you find, for example, in the Niger River, in a Niger Delta, where people can hunt bird for food and they sell it on the market. But mostly, they are hunting people coming from Europe to do it for pleasure. I don't know. Yeah.
That is really disappointing. I because in Europe we just think, especially in Britain, for example, I can only speak for Britain really. We think, oh, those people in the Mediterranean shooting all the migrants and all the raptors, and we also think about the people in the North African coast, like in Libya and places like that, putting up nets
Mm-hmm.
miles long, catching everything. But then you've kind of hope that once the birds survive that gauntlet, then they got to face the Sahara, of course. Once they've survived,
Yeah.
they got some rest. But it's not. Jesus, it's terrible.
Yes, it is. They go through tremendous, problem because all those threats along the flyways. Imagine if you are one of the bird. Going through all those issues. It will be. Imagine how you will be complaining.
Yeah. Okay. Another more sort of, well, hopefully a more lighter question. I love migration. I love the act of watching migration. This is October for those watching in the future. This is October. And I get really excited this time of year in the autumn because there's lots of migration and with that sometimes some rarity show up as well. But it's the numbers, and I in Europe I often go to, for example, Tarifa in southern Spain to watch the raptors, or other places in the Baltic states to watch raptors and seabirds and sea duck and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
what is it like with the migration? Because I can imagine, especially in the Sahel, I've always sort of imagined that as soon as they make landfall, because I've seen what it's like in Israel and Tunisia and places like that,
Mm-hmm.
where there's a wadi or as an area of green, it's just flooded with birds. Is that what happens along the Great Green Wall?
Yeah, I think as I said, within that area, it's mostly land birds, songbirds. And when they come in that area, they spread. They don't congregate for example, water bird. For example, when we have water bird, you go, for example, in Bandargan or in other park, you'll find, many birds congregate together, which is different with land bird, because land bird will spread into the area, occupying some of the trees, get some berries. But for the water bird, then you can see, for example, in some areas like Chad or in a Niger Delta, some congregation of water bird. But for land bird, you can see that, or you can see a movement where you have a million of birds moving at the same time.
Okay. Well, we've put up. Well, I put up on the chat the website for the Great Green Wall, so you need to check that out and see how you can help, because I'd love to come down one day somewhere along that Great Green Wall just to see what's there and how it's all working. And I'm really, horrified to find out about the hunting. But I'm just hoping that there's other more positive things going on apart from tree planting, of course. But anyway, Zoomers, just to let you know, we're coming to the close of today's show, but there's a few guests coming up. I mean, I've got a whole load of people till January actually, but the next three people, we've got Hans Polman, who works with Vulture Conservation, the NGO, and he's going to be talking to us about saving Europe's vultures, and that's on October the 13th. And on October the 17th, we have a young lady called Bella Lack, who's a conservationist and an activist. She's only about 18, I think. And she's going to be talking about tomorrow's conservationists. And she's actually got a book out as well. And on the 24th of October, we've got a guy called Andrew Budziak, who's a photographer from the US. And he specializes in urban wildlife photography. And he's going to be telling us all about that. We've got so many great guests coming up. We've got obviously you tonight as well, Geoffroy, but we've got some good people coming. So please tune in and tell your friends and get on to the YouTube channel, which I think you've all got it anyway, but I'll send that on the chat as well for you to get involved in terms of watching all the wonderful in conservation myths that we have in the past. The question I want to ask you, Geoffroy, if you could be anywhere in this planet right now, where would you be?
Yes, I will be at the top of Himalaya.
Well, mountaineering.
So,
are you a bit
mountain? Yes, Himalaya.
Do you like mountaineering or for birding?
Yes. I mean, at the top, expecting to see everything at the same time. But I'm interested to be there.
Well, I just hope you got some apparatus to help you breathe, because you may have problems breathing for this planet. And plus, you might find
I'm coming a highland country, so used to that, but it's not higher than a mountain. Yeah,
true.
Himalaya.
And you're based in Senegal, so what's your favorite Senegalese bird?
To say Senegalese bird, I mean, there is no Senegalese bird, I mean, the only, endemic species in Senegal is the Mali firefinch, which is, cross-border, the two countries. And I still looking for the firefinch, the Mali firefinch, but what I've seen and enjoyed in Senegal is the Egyptian plover.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
I've seen one before, but they look great.
Yeah.
I need to come to your part of the world. Okay, well, listen, Geoffroy, thank you so much for sparing your evening to talk to us about the Great Green Wall project. Sounds amazing, and I'd love to personally visit and see what it's like. But anyone watching, please get involved. Go to the website, or get in touch with Geoffroy and see how you can help as well. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Zoomers, thank you very much for showing up as well. Always great to see you all. I hope to see you obviously very soon. But in the meantime, keep looking up.